cannot resurrect your soul inside the same grave that buried it. And yet, that's what most do. They try to heal in the same rooms where they were broken. They sip optimism in the same chairs where their potential was starved. They recite affirmations in places haunted by humiliation, wondering why the ghosts never leave. But the environment is not neutral. It whispers, it conditions, it programs. And over time, what surrounds you becomes what directs you. That wall you stare at while convincing yourself to be disciplined. It holds the echo of every time you gave in. That desk you sit at to plan your rise. It remembers the stillness of your stagnation. Places carry memory. Objects hold energy. Environments mold identity. You can chant transformation all you want. But if the room still stinks of your older self, the ceiling will lower itself quietly every night while you sleep, until even your dreams shrink to fit your surroundings. People think habits are born in isolation. That discipline is a choice repeated until it becomes character. But behavior doesn't evolve in a vacuum. It breathes through environment. The food you eat, the people you talk to, the voices you let enter your head, even the angles of the light in your room. They matter more than you think. Your mind isn't just a mirror of your thoughts. It's a sponge for your surroundings. And here's the real tragedy. Most don't change because they don't move. They try to build empires from the ruins of their own captivity. They stay in toxic rooms, telling themselves they'll just focus harder. But when the cage looks like home, it becomes a lifestyle. You've got to destroy the backdrop before you can rewrite the script. Remove the echo if you want to speak differently. Shift the light if you want to be seen differently. The brain doesn't just respond to goals, it responds to geography. The mind is a pattern machine. It doesn't care if the pattern is killing you. It will reinforce it because it's familiar. If you wake up to the same skyline, hear the same notifications, argue with the same people, and fight the same impulses in the same exact spot, you're not rebuilding, you're repeating. Change doesn't start with motivation. It starts with movement. Rearranging your room is symbolic. It tells your subconscious, I am no longer who I was. Changing your social circle is war. It says, I refuse to be understood by people who profit from my stagnation. Moving cities, quitting jobs, deleting numbers. That's not overreacting. That's self-preservation dressed as evolution. And yet, people cling to familiarity like a noose made of comfort. You can't transform and stay recognizable. You must betray your environment before it betrays your future. You want to know why you relapse? Why you go back to old versions of yourself, even when you swore you were done? Because the room remembers you. The environment recalls the old you more vividly than you do. The corner where you spiraled, the kitchen where you binge, the couch where you wasted hours, that neighborhood that reminds you of who you once were. The brain is obedient. It will follow the cues it's trained to see. That's why a new room, a new street, a new gym, a new city, it matters. It's not just aesthetics, it's reprogramming. Because transformation isn't about changing the what, it's about killing the where. The battlefield matters, and most people lose not because they're weak, but because they never left enemy territory. They tried to build castles in war zones, but you will be different. You'll burn the old field before planting the new seed. You don't need more willpower. You need less noise, less familiarity, less sentimental attachment to things that drain your identity. You need to walk out of the room mid-sentence. Stop returning texts from your former self. Abandon the schedule you inherited from your procrastination. You need to get radical. Change your setting like it's survival, because it is. Your future depends on your surroundings more than your intentions. Build a temple where you used to build excuses. Put your body in unfamiliar terrain and watch how quickly your thoughts change. You can't overthink in motion. You can't self-sabotage if the old triggers are out of reach. The world will tell you that change is internal. And it is. But the internal doesn't survive if the external keeps pulling it back into orbit. You want freedom? Start with location. You want power? Start with silence. You want evolution? Start with exile. They'll say you're running away. Let them. They only say that because they've chained themselves to ghosts and called it loyalty. But you're cutting loose. You're not running. You're relocating your evolution. You're not avoiding. You're clearing the stage for a new act. People who fight dirty will use your surroundings to trap you. They'll linger in your routines, in your playlists, in your desk drawers, in your memories. Change your environment. You're not supposed to grow where you were once buried alive. There's no glory in healing in the same hell that burned you. That's not resilience. It's masochism sold as virtue. You can't be reborn in the same coffin, but the world tells you, stay strong, fight through it. You can change without leaving. No, you must leave. Your transformation demands a new landscape. A phoenix doesn't rise from the same pile of ashes twice. It finds a new sky, with wind sharp enough to test its wings. Staying in the same place and expecting a new self is like trying to clean a window while standing in mud. The stain will keep reappearing. Change begins with a violent act of rebellion against comfort. You leave not because you're afraid. You leave because you finally respect the weight of your potential. And you refuse to let it rot under dim lights and recycled conversations. Every environment either feeds you or feeds on you. That's the brutal truth most don't want to say out loud. People, habits, noise, light, even the architecture around you. They all act like subtle architects of your identity. You stay in the wrong energy long enough, you'll shrink to fit it. You stay around people who don't evolve, you'll forget that you were ever meant to. Watch what happens to someone when they switch countries, when they go where no one knows their name. They don't just become unrecognizable to others. They become strangers to the weakness they once wore like skin. That's the power of environment. It doesn't ask you to change. It forces you to. You don't need another journal entry about what you'll do. You need to wake up and see a new ceiling, smell a new air, build a new rhythm, and kill the one that kept you barely surviving. Some places carry decay like perfume. You breathe them in and feel your shoulders slump. Your energy drains the moment you enter, not because of what's happening, but because of what happened there. Spaces remember you. The carpet holds the posture of your failures. The mirror reflects not just your face, but every insecurity rehearsed in its presence. That alley where you said goodbye. That coffee shop where you lost yourself trying to prove your worth. And yet, you return, daily, as if some spiritual loyalty keeps you tethered to the very place you were spiritually poisoned. You need to ask yourself, why are you loyal to your own oppression? Why do you sleep in a room that suffocates your soul? Your mind cannot bloom in polluted air, and the longer you breathe it, the more it convinces you that growth is supposed to hurt like this. Number growth is supposed to be sharp, but never suffocating. And if it is, you're not evolving. You're decomposing. People often think change is a moment of realization. It's not. It's a moment of relocation. You don't think your way into becoming someone new. You move your way into it. You walk different paths. You put yourself in unfamiliar atmospheres, so your old instincts can't autopilot their way into ruin. That's why travel shakes people to the core. That's why retreats, pilgrimages, mountain climbs, monasteries, they all work. Not because they contain secret wisdom, but because they starve your patterns. They create friction in your muscle memory. And in that friction, your mind starts searching for new wiring. That's when you begin to feel, this is what I could have always been if I had just left sooner. You don't need a grand escape. Sometimes it starts by simply saying, this room no longer deserves me. Change your surroundings like a criminal shedding the last disguise, like a warrior discarding rusted armor. It doesn't have to be pretty. It just has to be decisive. Remove the clothes they complimented you in. Rip down the photos that mock you with nostalgia. Repaint the walls they once leaned against. Burn the letters you wrote but never sent. You're not just changing your environment, you're reclaiming it, transforming it into sacred territory where your future self is safe. Make your life unrecognizable to the version of you who tolerated being half loved, half heard, half alive. Become alien to your old triggers. Make it so your former self couldn't find you even with a map. That's how you change. That's how you dominate. Not through motivation, but through dislocation. Not by adapting to the environment, but by obliterating it and building one that reflects who you are becoming, not who you had to be to survive. Now move, because the clock is watching, and your past has already missed its cue. Change your environment, and you erase their access. You eliminate their shortcuts into your psyche. Suddenly, they can't reach you through the same patterns. You change the locks, not out of fear, but out of finality. Because growth isn't just about elevation, it's about removal. You don't become a new person by imagining it. You become by stepping into places your old self would have feared, and standing there long enough for the new version to solidify.